Hey, fifth graders, welcome to lesson 10 of the math lesson, Convert Metric Units of Length. The metric system is a decimal system of measurement. To convert metric units, you multiply or you divide by a power of 10. Remember, powers of 10 are 10, 100, 1,000, those things. So it's what we're going to be dealing with. So you want to be paying attention to how many zeros you have here when you're doing these. For the first one here, example one of the largest recorded pythons measured is 7 3/10 meters long. What is the length of the python in centimeters? So again, what we've been doing all this time is, how we go from like a big to a small. So if you look at this and you think of a meter and a centimeter, and if you remember, a meter is like a meter stick. Okay, it's like like those big yardsticks is what we call them in here, but it's a meter stick. That's a meter, and then a centimeter, is like that. So obviously the bigger one would be the meters, and then this would be the smaller. And you might want to write this down because I probably won't be doing this every day. But remember, if we go from a big to a small, we're going to multiply. If we go from a small to a big, we're going to divide. All right, so you might want to write that little thing down right there. So since we're going to go from a big to a small, we're going to multiply this 7 3/10 by 100. And if you would remember how we multiplied by powers of 100, it's a little different because we have this decimal in there. So you're going to multiply. You could just say, hey, this is easy. 73 times 1 is 73. All right, and then you have a 0 and a 0 here. Well, you start over here because you have one decimal, because we have multiplied decimals. So we have just one space. So we're going to move this over to right here. We're going to move it over one space because there's one space right here. So the answer is going to be 730 centimeters. So the python is 730 centimeters. Okay, we'll do a few practice problems here to kind of give you guys an idea. You're going to want to make sure you refer to this. 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters or 1,000 millimeters. And a kilometer is 1,000 meters long. Okay, and this kind of gives you an idea what these things are. In relation to, like, a 1 millimeter is the thickness of a dime. The width of your pinky finger right here would be a centimeter. The height of a doorknob to the floor is like a meter usually, and then a kilometer is like 6 city blocks, or it's a lot bigger. We're going to go ahead, and like we normally do in class, we're just going to go ahead and move on to the independent practice. Okay. Now, we're going to look back, and we're going to refer back to this quite often. So I'm going to try to put that right there for you so that you can know the conversion of those numbers. So we have a 700 centimeters to meters. So again, you're going to ask which one's the smallest. So hopefully you realize that centimeter is smaller because a meter is a little bit bigger. So in that sense, we're going to divide small to a big. All right, so we're going to go from centimeters to meters. So we look up here and we say there's 100 centimeters in a meter. So we're going to divide by 100. So 700 divided by 100 equals, and if you use, most of you are probably going to be using a calculator. As I've said before, I don't really care at this point. I just want to know that you know how to convert these, and that's going to be 7 meters. Number 4, millimeter or a meter, which one's bigger? Again, millimeters here, meter. So obviously the millimeter is small and this is bigger, so we're going to divide. So we need to look at how many millimeters are in a meter. So it says right here 1,000 millimeters are in a meter. So we're going to divide this by 1,000. All right. And I'm, like I say, completely okay with using your calculator on this. You don't technically need to, because you should be able to just move the decimal point over on these if if you go back to remembering how we did this, if you remember, we have 3 zeros. So you're going to start here and go 1, 2, 3. So that gives you 8.5 meters because there's 3 zeros. So you start here and you move over 3 spaces, and that's all you got to do. On the next one, we have kilometers to meters. So we look at this and we say, well, it looks to me like kilometers is bigger than a meter. So all right, so let's do the next one. I had to pause there for a second, guys. Sorry. We have kilometers to meters. So we have kilometers is obviously bigger than a meter. So we're going to say this is a bigger to a small. So we're going to multiply from a bigger to a small. So we look at here, we look at how many meters are there in a kilometer, and we have 1,000. So we're going to multiply 15 times 1,000. And guys, this is where it's really, really easy because all you do is say 1 times 15 is 15. How many zeros are there? Yep, there's 3 of them right there. So we put 3 zeros, we have 15,000. Next one is we have 73,000 meters, and we're going to kilometers. So you look at this, meters and kilometers. Meters is obviously smaller of a unit to a big unit. So we're going to divide. So again, we're looking at how many meters are there in a kilometer. It's 1,000. So we're dividing this by 1,000. If you remember what I said, you just count how many zeros you have in this 1,000, and there are 3. So you're going to say 1, 2, 3. So you're going to have 73 kilometers in 73,000 meters. Okay. Next, we have, let me see here, 2.71 or 2 and 71 hundredths of a meter, and we have millimeters. Sorry. I'm going to cover these up, guys. 2.71 or 2 and 71 hundredths of a meter equals how many millimeters? Again, we look at meters here. So I guess we could say this is like biggest and this is the smallest. So on our scale here, you can see that. So we have meters and we have millimeters. So we're going to go from a big to a small, means we're going to multiply. So how many millimeters are there in a meter? Looks like there's 1,000. So we're going to times this by 1,000. All right, and remember, all we have to do on this one is move it however many decimal spots to the right when we're multiplying here. So let's go ahead and do. Let me double check. I don't want to tell you wrong stuff here. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Put a 0 in that spot there. So your answer is going to be 2,710 millimeters. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you just want to go ahead and use your calculator to check it if you want. It's always a good bet since we live in a technological age and you're getting your lessons via a video. Use your calculator to double check to make sure that you guys have the right answers. So we're going to go from a meter to a centimeter. We have a meter here, so it looks like this is going to be a bigger to a smaller. So we're going to multiply. There are 100 centimeters in a meter, so we're going to multiply this by 100. How many zeros are there? There's 2 zeros, so we're going to move this over 1, 2, put a 0 in that spot, so you have a 920. Pretty simple. 920. We're going to slide this on down right here. Now we're going to be going from a millimeter to a centimeter. All right. We're going to go from a small, because millimeters over here, so it's a little bit bigger. So we're going to divide from a small to a big. And then we look up here and we say there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So we're going to divide this by 10. All right. Now remember, of division, you go to that way. Multiplying, you go that way. So we have 1 0. So we're going to move this little guy right there. And we're going to say that this is 1.75 or 1 and 75 hundredths of a centimeter. And then We're getting near the end of our time because we can only do 15 minutes. We have 509 thousandths of a kilometer equals to meters. So we have kilometers is the biggest, obviously. So that's going to be that. And this is going to go to small. We are going to multiply. How many meters are there in a kilometer? There's 1,000. So we're going to multiply this by 1,000. And remember, you go to the right for multiplying decimals. So we have 3 zeros. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So it looks to me like we're going to have 509 meters in that number there. Going on down here, we have the less than, greater than, or equal to. Remember, this is called less than, greater than, and that's equal to. All right. Sometimes we have a hard time knowing how to say those. 30 centimeters or 300 millimeters. So what I always say to do is take the bigger one. Like you can see, centimeters is bigger. This is smaller. I would suggest taking a bigger going down to small, because then all you got to do is multiply. So we're gonna take our centimeters down to a millimeter so we can compare these. So we need to ask how many millimeters are in a centimeter, which is 10. So we're going to take this times 10. And again, we can start there and move our decimal over one, or we just should be able to know that this is 300. So it looks to me like they are equal. Again, find the bigger one, which is going to be, this is a big, this is a smaller. So we're going to multiply. We're going to convert this kilometers to meters. So we're going to multiply 4.8 or 4 8/10. And we're going to say how many meters are there in a kilometer? Well, we have 1,000. So we're going to multiply that by 1,000. So we're going to take this and we're going to move it over 3 spaces because there's 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. And these little loop-de-loops, we're going to put zeros. And look, it's equal again. And then 25 millimeters, 3 centimeters. Centimeter is bigger. This is smaller. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this centimeters. We know we're going to multiply it. How many millimeters are there in a centimeter? We have 10. So we're going to multiply this by 10, and that's going to give us 30. So you can see that that is the bigger one. Remember what I said, you always find the bigger one and just convert that one down to a smaller one. So that way you can just deal with multiplying. You have kilometers and meters. Kilometer is bigger. So we're going to convert this one by timesing it by how many meters are there in a kilometer. Again, there's 1,000. So we just times this by 1,000, and that gives us 9,000. So obviously that one's bigger. And then we have meters and centimeters. So meters is bigger than a centimeter. So we're going to multiply this. How many centimeters are there in a meter? 100 centimeters in a meter. So we're going to times this by 100. Remember, we have 2 zeros. So we're going to go 1, 2. So it's going to be 150. So 150 is bigger than 145. Again, if you just want to use your calculator and doing these, I'm perfectly okay with that. It would be good for you to remember and know how to do that. It's something good to have. And then the last problem that we're going to do today before you do your homework, 17 meters or this. Well, meters is bigger. This is smaller. So we're going to times this by how many centimeters are there in a meter? Again, there's 100. So we're going to take this times 100. So if we have 2 zeros and we say we start here, we go 1, 2. Well, obviously that's going to be quite a few more because that's going to be the bigger one of them. All right. So good luck on this, and your homework's right here. And when you're finished, put it in your folder for the day so that we can check it when we get back. And depending on how many views I have on this video, I'll make another one or not. So good luck, guys.